Wanganja doalang limrongo batalam rektire. Raping kamorno. Doa kayiricha. Warpam ringit mire. Daptun maramayo korakorottoyo. Karom do ngara yo. Dalkara cirikay milkare belma kadolangdo.
My country, my homeland is very important, very unique. Where I come from, my connection to the land and the sea, there are stories. That's why I don't want to lose my homeland.
What's the condition of the house? Are you happy with the condition of the house?
The house is just built by thing. It's only a tin house, and I think I needed a real house. This is like, it's a tin house. I need a proper house. And yeah.
Seems like the main hubs have actually dragged people off in terms of, housing. A lot of the houses have been built in the main hubs, which have actually distracted the people from the homelands.
And people in homeland go na one homeland bray ramluk korja bayan ngal to ganing living ganan ngal to jama miren na miren ngali pinyangali kawanga ngali kelang ngayon do government tinggal to recognizing na yol ngali.
We can work together to be able to reach the goal, be able to achieve what our dream and vision are. So the leadership must start at the homelands first, so we can support whoever is working in the office. We're not here for nothing. We are here looking after the value of the land.
The main purpose is for the master plan is to bring us together, to bring that concept from here to here. Yeah. So all our mind, we are now all in a line. Put it to here, and then the attribute has to come out. The action has to come out. That's the most foremost thing. And you are now waiting, And hopefully with this information that we're giving a chance to Yolngu to speak, it will include, they will feel more inclusive and more ownership to master plan, because it belongs to us. It belongs to all of us.
The Kunu is the organization. The pedal is for each directors. We are pedaling to meet the people to gather their ideas, and we pedal together to reach their requests. So we're shaking the government to recognize and support both the homelands. Make our plans reality. Make our plans happen. Then we pedal through calm sea. We'll get there.
I guess for me, the story started 3 years ago. For the people of Marthakal, it started 50 years ago. And that was a deep desire to live on their homelands. And when I got the opportunity to become the CEO of this organisation, my first question to the board was, how is it after 40 years of having such a deep desire, aren't we living back on the homelands? What's going wrong? And I think the answer that Marcus and I got was people aren't listening. People aren't listening to us. And so Marcus and I decided that we would actually go back for the last 10 years of history of the Marthakal organisation and try and understand what it is that people have been asking for. We went through all the board minutes. We went through everything we could find to try and listen and understand what people have been asking for and what the barriers were. It was pretty clear that the barriers were people weren't being listened to. So we decided to create a strategy that wasn't just about a political cycle, it was about a 20-year plan so that we could, in half the time that Marthakal existed, try and achieve something different to what had happened for the previous 40 years. And we felt, when we talked to the board and Yolngu people, we recognised that housing isn't just a housing issue. And we as an organisation had a really big opportunity because actually if you looked at our organisation, we are the social determinants in action. We have the Ranger program. We run the health service. We do the housing maintenance on the homeland. We do the minor housing maintenance inside Gulawinku. We have an arts centre. We have a motel. We are the guardians of the IPA. The only thing we don't do is education, but we're working on that as well. So what we realised is housing is about health, country, economy, and policy. Thanks, mate. We also recognised, and this has been talked about a lot, there's this disparity. Prime Ministers have said, yeah, there's $4 billion, and he keeps talking about that every time we hear him. What he doesn't tell you is that $4 million, in our opinion, is actually, well, we know it's going into the hub communities, and we all know what's happening inside those hub communities. We're actually systemically building in things like domestic violence, family violence, health issues. It's actually colonisation in action right before our eyes. So, AHANT, what we're calling on you to do is to work with us and other Homelands organisations to have that policy changed. We need to change that policy. Thank you. We know that, and I think let's skip because we know all these things. So our master planning process, I guess, is this long-term strategy for 20 years. We're currently working on an implementation strategy. We brace it into political cycles because we know that political cycles are important, but our long-term vision is a 20-year vision. It has 3 major tiers. It's working with each homeland on what is their aspiration for that homeland. So they're the homeland mini master plans, if you like. Then there's a regional strategy, which is the Marthakal strategy, the mothership as it were, which actually pulls those master plans together and works with each homeland to implement those master plans. Then there's the economic part and the risk management of that delivery. And we're also asking lots of questions about what does a Yolngu business look like in a decolonised space? Because we don't think that traditional business models actually allows Yolngu people to be Yolngu people. So we need to come up with a new model, and we're testing this idea at the moment around social franchise. Recognising that there's a whole range of things that Yolngu people want to do, and there's some things that we can support as an enabler as Marthakal in that. We also need to recognise that in that business model, the ROM is critically important. So if you look at Marcus and I and the way we work together, I bring the Bullender strategy stuff. Marcus brings the cultural aspect of the work we do. And I need to respect that Marcus, with his authority, has a whole lot of responsibility to his community through the ROM. So how do we do that in a business context? How do we create businesses within that context to allow Yolngu people to take on the responsibility they have culturally? So we're exploring that idea. That's probably for a conference around economic development. Really critical, we're trying to think about language and who speaks for place, what's permitted, how it's translated, and how is it accountable. I'm really conscious that I'm doing all the talking. Marcus, you just clip in any time. And maybe you could talk a little bit about this whole concept of Watangumala and traditional owner, because I think that's a really important one.
So Watangumala elders, Watango derives from our cradle of identity and origins of our people. The traditional owner, from few of my elders' perspective, is a new modern term created to establish a agreement between Bullender and Yolngu. Tradition being, explaining the cultural aspects to a certain person standing on land and its inheritance. And owner basically separates the term for belonging, where you basically isolating one single person from a majority of tribal group. Now, to put you in perspective, I'm one of 101 grandchildren from my grandfather. And that's the average for a Yolngu person within our region. And you think about all those different clan groups that are now all have to forcibly live in a ghetto that is now forming a ghetto within our major hubs. And the mindset of the new generation is very, very dangerous now, and we're at a fallen state, whether it's the system, but also we as human beings are at a fallen state now, where we are no longer valuing each other, and our cultural heritage is now at a brink of extinction. So with this model of how homes are now, we've been forcibly now to live in small confined spaces and not being able to practice our true value and of our spirituality of where we belong. It just strips away everything what we stand for as Aboriginal people. So we have to take this on as a inclusive Yolngu people and a inclusive people who work together on this. And these 2 days have been really, really inspiring for myself as just being here amongst a lot of all your people. Such an inspiration, and it's people power, and it's now up to us to get this thing off on the right track, because government not going to listen. They haven't been listening since the day I arrived here. But there are people in place who are willing to fight with us and stand for what is right for our people. So it's being accountable too. With all the, has to be a both ways. We have to acknowledge the both ways interaction in what we, what this whole concept of being here is for, and it has to be, with all the passionate people coming together and putting our minds together to be accountable. It's been really challenging getting all the families together and aligning them with this concept, because it's been a really, like Peter said earlier, it's been a very challenging 40 years, and we have to stand now. It's going to be another struggle, another downfall again for our people. So it's the policy that we all need to be looking at, the policies that put in place to dismantle our spirituality, our culture, and the policies to split our way of thinking and how we connect to each other as human beings and find a place for us in how we thrive to build our nation, to rebuild our nation. And that's starting with our children, with everything what you have and everything what we have, you know, combine the two knowledges together. That's the only way we can do it. And there's no escaping the reality where you all have accepted the way of change, you know, from the beginning. And this is not a new thing. You know, we've been visited by other national nation, you know, the Islam nation of the Muslim culture of Indonesia. So they were the first people who established a foundation for us and taught us these things to thrive as fellow human beings. But their concept was different, not here to stay, but here to survive as people on the planet. Yeah. Thank you. Keep going.
So we're going to try and round up really quickly now. Thank you. Oops, no, it's the wrong one. So we're seeing housing as health infrastructure. We're seeing a collective impact amongst all of our parts of our organisation. We've coined this motto that the mechanics is important as the doctor. Brittany here is a public health worker, so she works inside of the traditional biomedical model, but part of her role is to go out to the homelands and work with homelands on the 9 healthy living practices and reporting of broken taps, showers, etc. So we're seeing the reporting of all that health infrastructure as a health issue. We're collecting data about how often we need to do that, when we do it, and we're doing that inside Communicare, which is actually a health clinical tool. But we're saying we can't just look at health in a clinical fashion. We need to look at it in a Jungal fashion, and we need to look at housing as part of that health infrastructure. So I'm really running through this. What we think makes a homeland ready for housing investment, it has to have cultural authority. If Yolngu people aren't behind it, it's not going to work. So it needs the right people, the right permissions, and the right boundaries. And that's all about that Watungomala. Who are they and what do they want? We think that it's really important to have these spartal plans. So that's, you know, where is housing going to go on the homeland? How do we connect it to the services? What are the essential services that need to be in place? Not just now, but if the 20-year vision works, if there's really thriving enterprise on that homeland, whether it be a fisheries or whether it be tourism, what are the needs of actually running that infrastructure and the essential services long term? There needs to be a health logic. What's the model of care? And it's not just about thinking about a biomedical model, it's also talking about a Yolngu model of care. So we're designing new clinics for the homelands which actually take Rapidi Rom into consideration, for example, traditional care. What's the economy? What do people want to do on their homelands? How do we create economies on those homelands? How do we create or incubate business on those homelands? What is the opportunity between Marthakal as the mothership and the homelands in terms of food security? So food security actually provides an opportunity, because to get food to a homeland, we need some transport. So there's a job opportunity. So how do we pull those things together and create economies inside the master plan? So the homeland mini master plans will have all that technical advice, it'll have the spartal plan, it'll have a model of care. It takes into consideration the IPA and clan estates, because we're the guardian of the IPA, the Indigenous Protected Area, 1.5 million hectares. It has an economic plan and it has an implementation roadmap. So the tier 2 of that is the aggregated plans. That becomes Marthakal's work to support the common needs, power, water, housing, access, digital waste, etc. System strategies around shared strategies, so transport, food security, model of care, finance advocacy, and then what's the investment pipeline? And I think we've been given the nod now. I guess this is really important. We've developed this thing called Marthakal Enterprise Limited, which is a risk holding functions an absolute mirror of Marthakal Homelands Resource Centre, but it holds the risk for any of the enterprise activity we do. And we already do some of that stuff. We own a charter company, and I tell you, if anybody is thinking about setting up a charter company, don't. But we need ways to hold risk, but we also need those, transport links. So actually, a charter company is really important for us. We're looking at the model of social franchise and trying to work out what is an appropriate business model for Yolngu people to be able to maintain business and the ROM. That's critical, and if we don't get that right, it'll fail. Look, this little, sorry, you want to see something? No. If you wanted to, this little thing here will take you to a full video which sort of tells the story from a Yolngu perspective. The way we're doing this is we're using some principles of Paulo Freire. I don't know whether people know Freire. He's a Brazilian educator from the 60s. His seminal piece of work was called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, so the science of education of the oppressed. And we're sort of using that action reflection praxis, which he talks about in his work, to continue to do the sorts of work we're doing. The way we're doing that is we've listened. We've now put the strategy into Balanda language so that governments and others understand it. We've got a digital storytelling team that's working with us that actually gives that story back and helps and have Yolngu people retell the story. So we're constantly checking in through our digital storytelling, which is also an evaluation tool because it keeps us honest in terms of what the process is happening. And we're gathering lots of information for new staff, etc., coming into because we've got to think about the system. We all know what happens when, a wild, crazy CEO and MEO get together and have a great plan. When we leave, what happens? A new person comes in, changes the world, and things collapse. So we're thinking about that systemic issue as well. So we're already looking at succession for both Marcus and myself and how we can build systems inside, and I guess the master plan itself becomes part of that systemic approach so that it remains and the board has total power over it and can demand its implementation. Sorry we had to rush through that. I'm really happy to talk to anybody about it. I guess the other really exciting part, sorry, I keep getting wound up here. We have actually, and this is not official and I can't tell you much about it, but we've actually been given some good news that we've got some significant amount of money now to put into this process. Over the next year, the actual sitting down with Homelands real work starts, which is really exciting. And we've also got some follow-on money that will help us actually put some of that stuff into practice, which is very, very exciting. We think this is a scalable model. We're open for people to share it. It'll be different in each place, but the principles remain the same, I think. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it was useful. I'm sorry we had to rush it. Please watch the video. There's a number of other videos there. We've created videos as induction videos for this process for our staff and contractors that work for us. We actually have a document that contractors have to sign. It's about our way of working. If they're not interested in working with us in our way of working, then we're not interested in working with them. So we've tried to build in systems that actually empower Yolngu people to be in control. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
My name is Jimmy. Jimmy Rere. I live at Ngayoli for a long time. Not really long time, but yeah.
What's the condition of the house? Are you happy with the condition of the house?
The house is just built by it's only a tin house, and I think I needed a real house. This is like, it's a tin house. I need a proper house. And yeah.
So Marcus, we've come to Parliament House to talk to Malandiri and Marion Scrimgeour about our really important master planning project. So why is it important for us to come and talk to Malandiri and Marion at Parliament House about our master plan?
So this is a very important in this day and age, in this generation where we got younger people sitting in Parliament that represent Pukmak, that speaks for all, but also a part of that constitution as well. So as our representative for funding body, this is where the law is created to give the rupiah out to where how the economy is going to be used in Australia. So it's very important that we speak to them here and give the message to them face to face.
And so some of the important things are housing.
Housing.
So what are some of the problems with housing at the moment?
Very, it's crippling younger people. It has crippled ever since the breakdown, finishing of ATSIC. The system's been all rearranged, and now everything is all the focus is on the major hubs now. There's not much.
So when you talk about major hubs, places like
Gallawingo, major community, major community where younger people have been dragged into, because that's where all the government bureaucracy runs. It's a place where most of all the government rupiah goes to, and the homelands are now like misrepresented in that area. So we need to. It's very important that we give the story back to our ministers to say, homelands needs to be looked after the same way. It's just as important as giving it to the major communities, but the problem gets piled up. If you pile more housing in one area, it's not helping the health of the people. It's not helping the economy. You're spending more money in health, in everything else where you're putting people. But if you're putting people in one area, but if you bring them back to the homeland, it'll be more sustainable. Sustainable living.
So people being connected back to their clan estates is actually making people healthier. We're starting to look after the domestic violence problem. The violence problem. Because actually bringing people into communities, bringing clans together, is actually creating problems.
Creates tension. And there's always going to be a dispute. Where people are going to be, not happy with sharing each other's area of space, and the intergenerational effect that happens is it's going to be, the second generation of Jamarakule, the kids, children, are actually going to suffer more because they're going to be growing up with that proper identity and proper way of looking at the worldview of Yolngo, but also going to be struggling to find where they're going to fit in the system. So if they're going to be within that area of space, it's really difficult. But if that group of families have a way of accessing adequate housing in the homelands, then there's a better outcome for health, education, well-being.
It's actually going to save this mob money.
It's going to save Yindi rupiah.
Let's go and talk to him. Let's get this over the line.
Let's go.